Hey, you guys, this is Rashawn Ellis for News, Views, and Conversations. Just want to pop in real quick and do a few news updates. I haven't done politics in a while. I'm sure everybody knows everything is going haywire, going crazy. So I just wanted to kind of like point out some things that I'm paying attention to now. Trump just talked to Putin, and now he's supposed to have the hookup, the insight to be able to get through to this guy. Nobody else can talk to him. Supposedly, they're supposed to be friends. Now, he just said he talked to him and he's supposed to, cease fire. Zelensky, of course, agreed and said, okay, they'll do like I think a 30 days ceasefire. Okay, from what I'm getting and understanding, pretty much he made him wait an hour before he would talk to him. He's playing them. They're not friends, they're not cool. It pretty much looks like to me that Putin is like, you do what I say do. I got this. I'm running this. But I wanted to highlight the part where in the Oval Office a few weeks ago on the world stage, everybody saw it, the whole blow up, how pretty much Trump and JD Vance came for Zelensky's throat, getting smart with him. And what I remember hearing, he kept trying to get his point across. Of course, he speaks a different language or whatever, but I could still understand what he was trying to, tell them as far as he's not going to comply, he's not going to do right. So I want to read you a little bit of what I was able to pull up to like remember, like what exactly did he say. So he says, okay, so he says, you know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversations. This is Zelensky, what he said. This is part of what he said. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversations, my bilateral conversations, and we signed with him. Me, like you, president, in 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, French President Emmanuel Macron, and former German Chancellor Angela Merkel. We signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. But after that, he broke the ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, is what he said, you are speaking about? What do you mean? So, pretty much in that moment right there, he was saying, what do you mean diplomacy? There is no diplomacy. And I believe further after the conversation, he was pretty much like, you will see. And that's when President Trump and JD started getting smart with him, saying he should be grateful and he wouldn't have all the power that he has if the United States didn't help him with weapons or whatever. But that's the point that he was trying to make. He was trying to tell these idiots that he's not going to comply. And he just proved what Zelensky said just a few weeks ago. It's March 19th, and now we're seeing exactly what the man was saying. But I knew it was going to come back to bite him in the butt because there's no way he does not have the pull that he thinks that he has with Putin. He is not his friend. He is not his ally. The minute he catches him slipping, he could very well do something more. Again, I just wanted to highlight that part just for everybody to see. This is crazy. This is foolishness. Why are you trying to side with the enemy? And it's being proven that he is the enemy. Uh, just craziness going on. I also wanted to highlight the Statue of Liberty. We're so much of an embarrassment on the world stage. The French politicians suggest that the U.S. is no longer worthy of the Statue of Liberty, a gift France gave America 140 years ago. So we down bad. America's crashing out. Anytime they want to take back the Statue of Liberty, this is an embarrassment. More highlights. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts pushed back against President Trump's call to impeach a judge whose ruling conflicted with his administration's priorities. He's not supposed to be deporting any immigrants, and I believe he went ahead and did it anyway. In a statement, Roberts said, for more than 2 centuries, it has been established that impeachment is not an appropriate response to disagreement concerning a judicial decision. Trump earlier had called for the judge in the legal battle over his administration's deportation flights to be impeached. Again, he's continuously reckless, and now he's trying to push over the judges. And I'm hoping and I'm thinking they're all judges, whether they are in the lower courts, higher courts, and the ultimate, the Supreme Courts. They have to hold the line. They have to hold the line. they better hold the line, because if they don't, then he's going to be telling them what to do. And from what I'm understanding, they're continuously throwing stuff at the wall, trying to see what sticks. And so far, not a lot is really sticking. And I believe that this judge knows if we don't, they're going to be doing whatever they want to do. Anytime now, you're trying to run up on the judges and tell them what to do. So thank God he is checking him, letting him know that's not what we're doing. We're not going to have that. Stop. And for the fact that he, from what I understand, he's already, like, deported some anyways. That's being pretty much held in contempt. So you can get jail time for that or fine. And I'm thinking at this point they're probably just going to fine him. But of course, as we've seen so far, he hasn't gotten in trouble for much. We still got to see how it all plays out. But again, all this ruckus, defying the judges, you're about to get the Statue of Liberty taken from us. Zelensky just warns you what he would do if you said something about a ceasefire. What he wants to do is he really wants Zelensky to stop so he can just come over there and take up the rest of Ukraine. That's what I think. That's nothing I read, nothing I pulled up, but that's what I think. He wants him to be dumb and let him come over there and just take everything and have his way. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to add in, Tesla. From what I'm understanding, someone set fire to a Tesla dealership, I believe it is. And so far, he has lost like 200 some $billion in sales. Everything is just crashing. But again, as we've already said before, this is what happens when you do stuff that you shouldn't do. The top is connected to the bottom is connected to the top, and so is the middle. So he really thought that because he has all this money, he can do whatever he wants. You can go in and gut the system and steal from the people. Well, the people are connected to your business. You know how many people have bought your car? Now people are selling your car. It's a whole train wreck. It's just ridiculous. It's really out of control. But again, as I said before, this is what happens when you do stuff that you shouldn't be doing. This is what happens when you do stuff that you should not be doing. And now you're reaping the benefits of that. Now you're losing money. If you're trying to take from the people, now your businesses are crashing. Everybody's not in alliance with your Nazi salutes that you've been doing. Last I heard, you're trying to allow South Africans, white Afrikaners, to come over here to the United States. They said, hey, we don't want nothing to do with that. But they're trying to make it okay for them to be racist. So I just wanted to pop in today. I haven't done politics in a while. So much other stuff has been going on. I've been trying to report on other things as well, so that we get a chance to, mix it up a little bit. But yeah, it's a lot going on. So we will be back on next week to see what else is popping. I hope somebody grows some balls and quit, bowing down to Putin or whatever. We're going to see what happens with that. Hopefully somebody gets some sense, but I just don't know. We got to get in there and, vote midterm and soon as possible, because this is just a whole train wreck and it's really a bad look upon the United States. We're going to see what happens. So I will see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Forgive the noise. Kids out there in front of my house playing basketball, so that's where all the noise is coming from. So I will see you guys in the next video.
You know, folks, I got to admit, stories like this next one that I'm about to cover probably disturbs me more than I let on. I have friends all the time who say, Brando, you seem really laid back. You seem pretty calm and cool. I know that has to be stressful every day talking about this stuff day in and day out. You sure seem to be holding it together pretty well. And I'm one of those people that's always screaming on the inside. I really am. I'm one of those people who is always just in a constant battle in my own mind, because this is so hard for me to wrap my mind around. We've came so far from where I grew up just in the 80s as a kid. I can't imagine people who, can remember a time before that and what they're thinking today. But I get messages from people in other countries. Our country is definitely deeply divided right now, more so than we've ever been. We're more polarized than we've ever been. But I get messages from people, especially in Canada these days, and shout out to all my Canadian listeners. I get messages from Canada. I get messages from England, Ireland, Australia, you name it. People messaging me from all over the world concerned about what they're seeing happen in the U.S. I've even had people in Canada send me their phone numbers to tell me that I've got a place to come if it gets that bad. And that's never what this country was ever supposed to be. I should have never got emails and texts like that in my life. And if you'd asked me when I was growing up in the 80s hearing a Republican president say, tear down that wall, I would have said one day I will be sending messages to people in other countries telling them that it's safe to come here. It won't be the other way around. But unfortunately, that's where we're at in this world today. And this next story I'm going to read to you here on Midas News, when I first read it, I thought, man, we shouldn't be here. This shouldn't be a real headline in 2025, but unfortunately it is. And so I'm going to bring it up here. This was written by Troy Matthews from the Midas Touch Network. French official demands the U.S. return the Statue of Liberty. A French MEP wants France to reclaim the beacon of global democracy after Trump sides with dictators. French member of European Parliament, Raphael Glucksmann, has demanded the United States return the Statue of Liberty to France after the results of the first 2 months of the Trump administration. Glucksmann called on Americans to return the gifted statue, stating the nation no longer adheres to the values of liberty and democracy embodied in the monument due to Trump's embrace of dictators. We're going to say to the Americans who have chosen to side with the tyrants, the Americans who have fired researchers for demanding scientific freedom, give us back the Statue of Liberty, said Glucksmann. We gave it to you as a gift, but apparently you despise it, so it will be just fine here at home. The United States was officially gifted the Statue of Liberty by France in Paris in 1880 and unveiled in the New York Harbor in 1886 to mark the centennial anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. It has long been a symbol of the American dream for immigrants arriving in the New York Harbor seeking a better life in the United States. An inscription inside the statue reads, "Give me your poor, your tired, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." Donald Trump's policies of unconstitutional detention and mass deportation have cast a shadow on the beacon of welcome and liberty. The news of Glucksmann's demand also comes a day after Trump declared Joe Biden's presidential pardons void and announced that he would begin investigating members of the January 6th committee and the Biden family, one of the clearest signals yet that Trump intends to wield the powers of a tyrant. And again, folks, for me, that's hard to read out loud. To think that we have fellow Americans living right here among us who are absolutely 100% behind a dictator, and they're perfectly okay with Trump being one and acting like one. And they're flexing about this. They're cheering about this. And there's people out there who will look at me and say, well, you shouldn't lose friends over politics, Brando. You really shouldn't, lose friends and family members over politics. Folks, this stopped being about politics a long, long time ago. We're not talking about the minimum wage and how high it should be. We're not talking about how high the rich should be taxed. We're talking about our democracy, our freedom, our basic principles that I thought we all agreed on. And we live in a world now where I'm surrounded by fellow Americans who praise dictators, and they do so because Trump praises those dictators. Whatever Donald Trump says goes. And so he comes along and he begins praising dictators, and MAGA rolls with that, and they praise them right along with him. He starts shitting on and belittling our allies, and then MAGA sits back and punches down and laughs and mocks and makes fun of our allies. And so we got people all over the world looking at us from the outside looking in. I understand if you're here in the midst of this, and in the midst of this polarization, in the midst of this fight that we're having amongst ourselves, I understand that arguments can get heated and everybody is just so gung-ho behind Donald Trump and the rest of us are kicking so hard against it. I understand that we've become polarized, but there are people who are looking from the outside looking in that don't recognize us anymore. That looks over at us and says, you know what, I don't recognize that country, to the point that I'm going to reach out to this dude in this country and tell him that if it gets much worse, he has a place to come stay. That's completely backwards. That's not a message someone like me should have ever received. I feel completely betrayed by my fellow Americans who get behind this type of rhetoric, who think it's okay to side with dictators and think it's okay for a president to govern like one. But what happened was we had people in this country just so much distrust. So much distrust got sowed into the government. All these right-wing bro podcasters just constantly drilling it in. And I will always go back to the churches, especially in my part of the world. I understand that people that live in other parts of this country and around the world probably goes, what the hell does he mean by the Bible Belt? And he's in the buckle of it. Folks, it is blood red Bible Belt where I'm at. And they teach kids from the time they're little to believe anything a Republican says. The D don't stand for Democrat in the South. It stands for the devil himself. That's what they believe that we are. And they've went out of their way to demonize Democrats. They've went out of their way to demonize education, to demonize science, to demonize history that they don't like. And they demonize the teachers who teach the history that they don't like. They don't ever want to confront our painful past. They want to double down on it. People like me grew up here in East Tennessee, Southeast Kentucky. I grew up here during the 80s thinking the rebel flag just meant Leonard Skinner and the Dukes of Hazzard for a little while until I grew up and understood what it really was about. But there are people who don't want to face up to that. They don't want to stare down that brutal, dark past. They want to whitewash it and pretend that it never happened. Or if it did happen, that somehow we should be proud of that. You got people like Elon Musk going to Germany and telling these alt-right groups, don't be ashamed of your past. And they're doing the same thing right here. That's why I get so riled up every time that I'm talking about him doing his salute, every time I talk about him platforming these white supremacists, these hate groups. They're giving them the power and they're telling them, we have a friend in you and you have a friend in us. And the dictators around the world, think about this long and hard. Dictators are the only ones cheering for Donald Trump. The people on the outside looking in, our allies that believe in the same things we used to stand for, freedom and democracy and justice for all, they're allies that we fought alongside of in the world wars and our grandfathers lost their lives along with those people in those wars. They're looking at us going, you've completely lost your way. And meanwhile, Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un has the biggest heart on ever. Well, probably not Kim Jong-un. He probably doesn't have a big one, but you get my point. That is what is going on in this country, and it's absolutely one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. And the fact that people will sit back and cheer this on. It's okay to cheer the villain at the wrestling matches. I used to do it all the time. Ron Wright is one of the classic villains here in East Tennessee. We grew up. That dude was the guy we went back and studied on how to be a villain, but it was just meant to be there in the ring for our entertainment. It wasn't meant to be on the world stage. Go to the WWE and root for the villains if you want to. Cheer for the bad guys. Dominic Mysterio's doing a really good job right now at being a heel. Go cheer for that. But don't make him the president. And don't start going out here and sitting down and thinking dictators are on our side and dictators are cool and start punching down on our allies. Punching down on Ukraine, a war-torn country, and mocking their president for not wearing a suit and laughing at him and belittling him. What the hell have we really become? And how do we ever get back to where we once were? That's the question that I don't think anyone really has the answer to. I applaud everybody who's trying to figure it out, but anybody that says, I have the concrete answer and I know what it is, they're full of shit. They don't. All we know right now is we're in this mess, and we're trying to see if there's ever going to be a light at the end of the tunnel, and when we see that light at the end of the tunnel, we just hope like hell that it ain't a train. That's where we're at this point. I'm not trying to bring down the room, but there's a lot of people, well, hell with France, man. I don't want nothing to do with France anyway. Okay, but when you punch down on Zelensky and you cheer on Vladimir Putin, you tell us exactly who you are, and you also let us know what you're really about, whether you realize it or not. This Make America Great Again bullshit, we know what you really mean by that. And you don't mean just going back to the 50s and leave it to Beaver. You mean it a lot deeper than that. You mean a time when black people didn't have rights. You mean a time when women stayed quiet. You mean a time when gay and trans people stayed in the closet and you never had to deal with it. You mean a time where you never had to be held accountable for a goddamn thing. That's what the Republicans want. The party that was all about pull yourself up by the bootstraps now wants no accountability. And they're going out of their way to make sure that this tyrant never faces any accountability. And they flex that he's flexing alongside dictators. And it's one of the most disgusting things that I've ever lived through as an American. And I really feel sorry for my parents that are my age and people in that age bracket who, my dad one time said, well, not long ago, he said, I probably won't live to see him leave office. That's a depressing thought, to think that you would spend your entire life living and believing in the American dream, only to come to the end and a tyrant be ruling over you. It's absolutely ridiculous, but I will sit here and call it out till the bitter end. There will not be any backing down from me. So I really appreciate everyone for your support here on the channel. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, be sure to do so. It don't cost you anything. But if you would like to donate a few bucks, it always helps out. We have members only here on YouTube. We also have Patreon, and the Patreon is linked in my bio. I've been interviewing some really cool people and posting the full interviews over there. with a lot of other stuff that I don't post anywhere else. So if you like that kind of thing and want to contribute, that's the place to do it. But I always, if I'm being brutally honest with you, I hate doing those kind of pitches. That's why I usually kind of gloss over it in the middle of my video or kind of come in at the end. I'm not here to grift, but if anyone does want some content that you can't find anywhere else and hear me interview some cool musicians and do some other things over on Patreon's the place I'm doing that. So I thank y'all for your support, and thank you to all the sane, reasonable, logical people, and to everyone who supports this type of tyrant. You can go straight to hell if there is one.